The start of the NHL season is fast approaching, and we can expect someone to have a breakout year. I preview 3 players who could have big seasons on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. I am your host, Carl Pavlock. I want to thank you for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. You could be watching me right now. Just going to be me for today's episode. Robin is unfortunately still dealing with some issues and work, and I just wanted to finish out the month by talking about 3 players, 3 younger players who we could expect to have breakout years. If you're interested, I was thinking about this because we are getting ready to do our 25 under 25 at 5 for Howling, where I'm the managing editor. I've brought it up before. Every year we look at the team's, best players under the age of 25. We look at the top 25. Something that goes across all the SB Nation sites if you are unaware. But that really just got me thinking about the younger players. And the Coyotes have so many younger players. And, we could expect them to hopefully make that impact this year. Something that Robin and I talked a lot about during the season was the Coyotes are a perfect team if you are looking to prove something. And we definitely saw that. I think we got career years out of, Travis Boyd, Liam O'Brien, Shane Gostisbehere, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz. All these guys really stepped up, and they're like, look, we know the Coyotes are bad, but you get your opportunity. You got to be able to grab it. And the Coyotes are just a perfect team for that. And they have a couple of younger players who I think could really step up and do that. I just kind of want to go over some of them, quick profile. Fortunately, you can't get too much back and forth going, but I want to give you a good idea of who these players are, why I'm excited for them, and kind of what they could hopefully do. I don't know if any of them are going to be superstars by the end of the year, but I think these are the guys to watch if you want someone to kind of be ready to look to make that next step. Let's get started. Originally, I was going to go with Michael Carconi for this one, but we have already talked about Michael Carconi. We had a whole episode profiling him, so I wanted to go with someone different. And the person I think probably has the best chance of being a call up from the Roadrunners and just dominating is Matthias Magelli. He is definitely one of the Coyotes' top prospects. I think he's on most people's radar. Drafted by the Coyotes in the 2019 NHL entry draft, 4th round, 98th overall. Maccelli is from Finland. Looking at his cap friendly, listed as 5'11", 165 pounds. So, not necessarily a big bruiser, but, not the player you expect to be doing a lot of checks. Maccelli is definitely a high-skilled player. One of the top Roadrunners. He actually finished first in points with 14 goals, 43 assists in 47 games played. Gotta love a point per game plus player. How often have the Coyotes had one of those recently? I can't really think of anyone. Maybe Ray Whitney. It's been a while. Because I don't think. Was Keller? Either way, you could always use another one. But Maccelli, I think, is definitely a player who could do that. He's in the third year of his ELC, so definitely, a good prove-it year. He did get some time with the Coyotes, 23 games played, had a goal and 5 assists. So definitely like a player who you would have seen last season if you were watching. But I think he can take that next step, hopefully, and like actually start contributing some real numbers. The Coyotes forward group does not look great. And I do think that it may be kind of set now, but if someone gets injured, if Maccelli is the first call up, he could definitely be who kind of steal it. I think we saw that last year with JJ Mosier, like just kind of called up and you're like, nope, he's never going back down. I'm not sure if he is going to go back down next season or not, just because he wouldn't have to clear waivers, but that's more of a contract thing. But I do think that Maccelli could be that guy. Just kind of comes in, impresses, and I would like to see him get some more goals. Scores goals in his first call up. That's pretty impressive. But he is one of those players where I think definitely could make that next step and be a real strong piece for the Coyotes moving forward. But there's no real rush. I don't expect him to necessarily play on the first line or anything. He is still definitely on the younger side. Sorry, my computer's loading a bit. He's only 21. He's got time. So yeah, but definitely a candidate who could make that next step. A breakout candidate. I'm going to go through the other two, but first I do need to give a quick message, and that's from our friends at betonline.net. It's the number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, hockey, and golf. You can head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hey everybody, Carl Pavlock with Locked On Coyotes. Like I said at the top, just going to be me for this one. But we are going over players who could have potential breakout seasons. Matias Maccelli, I think, is the player from the AHL who has the best chance of doing that. But I think the player who has the best chance of having a breakout season is an NHL guy, Conor Timmins. Conor Timmins was acquired, from the Colorado Avalanche, part of that Darcy Kemper trade, and he was a very highly touted defensive prospect. I didn't really know too much about him, but when the Coyotes acquired him, I looked into kind of his history. A player who has unfortunately been, had his development hampered with injuries. But that doesn't mean that it slowed him down in any way. He did get some time with the Avalanche the year prior, and was pretty good. 31 games played, 7 assists. So, not necessarily a game changer. He was a +6. If that does anything for you, it shouldn't, but yeah. But when the Coyotes acquired him, he gets 6 games in and then horribly injures his knee in a very brutal hit. Made all of the work back that Dmitry Yashkin gets a similar situation, not long, very close. Just seeing two players lose their season due to knee injuries was just rough. Clean hits on both. There was nothing dirty involved. But Conor Timmins, I think he may have slipped everyone's mind just because, the Coyotes had a revolving door of defensemen last season, and there's still so many of them. And, looking at who the Coyotes have signed, like Timmons is listed on IR still, but the Coyotes have 8 defensemen on cap friendly. And that is, like I said, Mosier may get sent down just because he wouldn't have to clear waivers. Like, I think Cam Jeník probably gets sent down, but like when Timmons is ready to play, like I think he can slot in and do some damage. Like I would not hesitate to call him probably the Coyotes' potentially third best defenseman at this point. Yeah, let's go with that. I'm not necessarily sure. Like he could definitely bring something. Sorry, just looking at the Coyotes blue line always kind of makes me sad and have to start negotiating the moves that are going to need to be made. It's ridiculous. The Coyotes have 8 defensemen. We're not sure if Jacob Chychrun's going to be traded. But yeah, that's just a mini rant. When I don't have someone to bounce off of, sometimes I get ranty. But yes, Conor Timmins. We have a player who was looking good with Colorado, who seemed like he could be a key part of the Coyotes blue line, gets immediately hurt, gets overshadowed in the public mind. Like no one's really expecting too much from him. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. But if he comes in and he earns his ice time and he's good, if he's that kind of player who he was in that short stint in Colorado, like I think the Coyotes have a very good, very young player who they could partially shape their blue line around. Like him and Mosier could be a really key part. I would like to see, Timmons and Gostisbehere. What does that look like? Would he be a good fit for Jacob Chychrun? I think part of the problems with Chychrun last season was he didn't really have that good fit. He played so well with Goligoski and just kind of losing him and not really being able to find stride with anyone. Like that was unfortunate, but hey, maybe that's the thing to revitalize Jacob Chychrun. Who knows? And if Chychrun and Timmons are playing together, Timmons is going to benefit from that. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Like I said, the Coyotes blue line is a mess, and it just makes me want to play amateur GM, which I shouldn't spend too much time doing, because who knows what the actual roster moves are going to be. It all really depends on how guys show up to training camp. All right, but I think that's about all I can say for Timmons right now. Like I said, really excited, but he's just a big question mark. But I think, that's what puts him as a breakout candidate. There's so many questions, and he could potentially be the answer to some of them. But anyways, we are going to be moving on to the third player who I think could be a breakout candidate, a player who has been with the Coyotes organization for feels like a long time, but definitely could be a good, solid time for him to take that next step. Yanique, drafted in the 2018 NHL entry draft, 3rd round, 65th overall. Yanique was definitely a player who I was always really excited to see, because he had a lot of really good buzz around him. And when you're tracking prospects overseas, you don't necessarily get too much information. It's why when we were talking about the draft, we brought on people who actually spend time watching these games. I unfortunately was not getting a chance to watch a lot of Yanique highlights, but he had a lot of good buzz. And then I finally got a chance to see him play at training camp. I was just like, oh, wow, this is like a completely different game than I would have thought. Like it was definitely a lot more physical. Like he uses his size and his weight really well. Like that's one of those things where I'm like, it seems like it could be the case, but you don't know until you see it. And I have been just eagerly anticipating the breakout candidacy of Yanique. I think he is the perfect type of player for Bill Armstrong. Like he is, if you look at a lot of the players who Armstrong drafted, I think Jeník fits right in with that mold. Like this isn't a player who, we talk sometimes about GMs being like, it's the last guy's prospects. I don't necessarily feel too much attachment to him. I think Jeník is he's going to endear himself to Bill Armstrong if he continues to play right, which he definitely was. By the end of the season, Yanique was with the Coyotes. I didn't think he looked too out of place. He was coming off a very successful year with the Tucson Roadrunners. Let me give you some stats. In 13 games with the Coyotes, he had 2 goals and an assist. And in 51 games with the Roadrunners, 17 goals, 30 assists for 47 points. He was second on the team behind Matias Maccelli. And an almost a point a game place. You know how much I love that point a game after I gushed about it with Maccelli. Jeník was almost there. And I would love him to not be in contention for that because I think that he should spend the full season with Coyotes. I don't want him to spend too much AHL time, but I am not sure where he is going to start. He is listed on Cap Friendly under the Roadrunners, which kind of makes sense. But there are still a lot of questions about the Coyotes' 13 forwards and who is going to be starting where. So yeah, but Jeník is a player who I think could be like a really strong candidate. If you didn't notice him too much last season, which is understandable. He was in kind of a limited role, didn't score a lot. So if you're more of a casual person, didn't see too much of him. I think he's going to have a big year this one. I think he's going to hopefully take that next step offensively and show what he can do to generate points. The 2 goals, definitely, that's a good start. But I definitely want more. And I think he is going to keep up the physical game. And that is going to be key. Like if you look at the players that Bill Armstrong drafted, like he is expecting a certain type. And if you're a player like Yanique, like do you really want to make your job less secure for the new guy who was just drafted? We talk sometimes about like players not tanking. Like GMs do. And that's one of the reasons. If you are a player on a team, you don't want them to get like a great guy who's going to take over your role, especially for a player like Jeník, like someone who's, on the bubble. He, made a jump to the NHL, but there's no guarantee that he's going to spend the entire season there or even started the season there. But I do think that if he starts in the AHL, he gets called up, he is going to need to just have a big show and just be like, hey, this is why you cannot send me down. I don't care what happens. Make plans around me being here, which I definitely think he can do. Looking over his stats, it's fun. His 2 goals were in 1 game against the San Jose Sharks. See, I wish Robin was here. I can make fun of her Sharks love. But that's, a multi-goal game. That's pretty impressive. Now just do that over an entire, season. That was his second call up. Actually his third, if you look at it. First call up was November 16th, lasted 2 games, lasted 1 game, December 28th. And then March 28th, he's back against Edmonton, finishes a -1, only played 9 minutes and 56 seconds. And then his next game, 2-goal game against the San Jose Sharks, 14 minutes and 19 seconds time on ice, 20 shifts compared to the previous or 14. So yeah, he definitely took that step. Like that second or that third time up in that second game, he showed like enough to be kept around for the remaining month. The thing he is going to need to do is do that in that first call up, because he had that 2-game chance, and his first call up, he was limited to 5 minutes and 56 seconds, and then 4 minutes and 44. So that does not suggest a good showing, but that's why you got to keep doing it. Like if you're a player like Yanique, you're young, you can just keep going. You're going to have shots. And I think that, if he gets a shot this year, he's going to take it. And I think it's going to be pretty good. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode. Bit of a shorter one. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight 3 players who I think could be good. Hope this was something that you enjoyed. I do know, like I said, usually 2 people, 1 person can sometimes sound a bit rambling. So yeah, hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully these are players who are on your mind. I don't think I came in with any shockers, but if you've been keeping track of these guys' development, let us know. Tweet us. Either me at Carl Pavlock FFH, you can tweet at 5 for Howling, or tweet at the show at LO_Coyotes on Twitter. Also, like I said, I am going to be doing the 25 under 25, so expect to see profiles of all 3 of these players. We're starting with the runners up tomorrow or today when you're listening to this, so it's gonna be a while. They did not finish in the low end, so you're gonna have to wait a bit, but yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. And I do want to thank everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go out and check out the Ultimate Pro Football Review 2022. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts on the Locked On Podcast Networks, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Review 2022 on your Audacy app and YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all for listening. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you're staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.